Welcome to New Hampshire's Business. I'm Fred Coker. An entirely new industry is being created across New Hampshire with 600 plus businesses already operating. Several are world-class companies in the business of life sciences, or as you and I remember from our school days, biology, chemistry, and ecology. Life sciences biomanufacturing in New Hampshire, 600 plus companies, medical device manufacturing, medical equipment, supplies, biopharmaceuticals and cell therapies, production, medical diagnostic laboratories, regenerative manufacturing, tissue technologies, and cellular therapy diagnostics. Life sciences cluster in New Hampshire by the numbers. 600 plus companies, $4.3 billion in sales, 11,290 jobs, 15.1 growth percent. And here's a quote from my guest right here in New Hampshire. An entirely new industry in biomanufacturing is being created. With me is one guest that made that quote, the president and CEO of the trade association group, New Hampshire Life Sciences, Andrea Hechavarria. And also with me is Ryan Holder, the Senior Director of Operations at Lonza at Pease in Portsmouth, one of the world's largest healthcare manufacturing organizations focused on biopharmaceuticals and cell therapies. Welcome to you both.
Thanks.
Thanks
for having us.
Yes.
What has led to 600 plus companies located in New Hampshire, in the life sciences located in New Hampshire, some of them world class? What is it that has attracted them?
I think most people don't realize that New Hampshire has been a leading cluster in medical technology, medical device for decades.
Yes, it has.
So we've been really strong in that area. And I think, you know, we've been growing so much over the last several years. I think part of it, and big part of it, is the New Hampshire advantage, right? The business-friendly policies, the New Hampshire way of life, access to government. Two top-tier research institutions in the state with UNH and Dartmouth, and that's really driving a lot of interest. And the other part I would add is the corridor outside of Cambridge is expanding, and New Hampshire is a really attractive location to expand that manufacturing.
Yeah, Ryan, same question, especially in terms of Lonza, based at Pease Tradeport.
Right. So we're not new to the Tradeport and not new to New Hampshire. Lonza's been on the Tradeport since the late 90s. I think what is new and what's a great opportunity is to have a unifying partnership with an organization like New Hampshire Life Sciences who can unify everybody.
And you've got that major facility, and you're in business around the world with major pharmaceutical companies in the early stages of the creation of major drugs. And you have grown like Topsy since you were located 25 years ago. More growth coming?
Well, Fred, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I would say is that Lonza as an organization has invested heavily in Portsmouth in the last several years. And so we've got multiple new production areas that have been built. And we've also got, anybody who's driven by the Tradeport would see a brand new building, as you mentioned, sprouting up out back. And so that's one of our most recent partnerships.
Right.
And I think that's a great example of what we're doing.
Well, as you mentioned it, Andrea, there's active life science research going on at UNH, Dartmouth, and at Keene State College. And the initiative by Dean Kamen here in Manchester with the Human Tissue Initiative, regenerative tissue manufacturing, which is going to be global at some point. So there is that. But there's a report commissioned by the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs last year that there were key challenges facing the life science industry in New Hampshire, and I just want you to remark on them. One is a small number of venture capital investments. I assume that's for startups. And the lack of a medical school at the University of New Hampshire. Are these issues that need to be addressed?
Yeah, I think one more so than the second. You know, we will be addressing trying to grow our startup community and that entrepreneurial community. We see that as a challenge that we're eager to solve. And I think part of New Hampshire Life Sciences mission is to grow the awareness of the industry. And I think with growing some of that awareness, we'll attract some additional VC interest into the state. I'm not too worried about, you know, the lack of a medical school at UNH. We've got one of the world's best at Dartmouth.
You do up at Dartmouth.
Yep, and we've got incredible access to what's going on in Boston.
Well, I was going to ask you about employees, whether you're having a hard time finding them, but I don't think you probably are in the STEM, the science and technology arena. But let's put more information up on the screen. More information, www.nhlifesciences.org. That's Andrea's organization. It's a wealth of information. So my thanks to Andrea Hechavarria, who is President and CEO of New Hampshire Life Sciences, and to Ryan Holder, Senior Director of Operations at Lonza at the Portsmouth Trade Port, the Pease Trade Port in Portsmouth. And if you missed part of this, you can go to WMUR.com, where it will be posted all this week.